Hi, I'm Nick Palmisano,
And I'm Pokey.
and this is the Bad News Network. This week, a school administrator by the name of Gina Petty recommended to the teacher she was speaking to that they needed to make sure, if they had a book on the Holocaust, that they needed to make sure they had a book representing the perspective of the other side. What the f***? What does that even look like? Mein Kampf? Maybe something written by the Red Skull? I know he's fictional, but I bet he had a lot of great ideas. Maybe it's just a video of an evil dude maniacally laughing. And I want to mock her for it, and I guess I am a little, but this is all coming out of a Texas law that's trying to limit the discussion of race as a meaningful part of historical discussion. If the teacher does get into that kind of discussion, they are supposed to discuss all perspectives. Laws like this are dumb, regardless of the intent. In fact, I'm going to go even further and say that the government should take a step way back out of education. We are micromanaging teachers at such an absurd level, and we are actually trying to ban books. Conservatives rightfully made fun of the liberal movement to ban books like To Kill a Mockingbird and The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn because of racial undertones. This is no less dumb than to ban books for discussion about critical race theory. Knowledge is always power. Good teachers show kids how to think, not what to think. And by the way, they have far less influence than you as parents do. My history teachers in high school set me up for success in life. Nick Peachy, who was also my wrestling coach, focused on all the civilizations American schools rarely discussed. We studied the Huns, the Mongols, the Ottomans, the Persians, and the Han Dynasty. It was awesome. Then I had a class taught by Mr. Crouch and Mr. McManus, where we moved through American history, and Crouch always took the conservative side, and McManus always took the liberal side. And they debated throughout the class, every class. And that changed the way that I look at American history. It wasn't a united group that all thought as one. It was a group of brilliant individuals fighting amongst themselves, but moving for common purpose. At the end of the class, we found out they were both liberals. Holy shit! I was so impressed that they had the stones to teach against their beliefs so that we could learn. Finally, I had McManus in a class called Problems and Interpretations of American Society. We studied a new block of instruction each quarter, in depth, using a series of primary and secondary sources. We wrote one paper every week for an entire year, and one quarter was specifically about slavery. There were no black kids in my class. I lived in Lillywhite, Massachusetts. Reading those primary sources removed slavery from being some sort of thing in the distant past, whether it was firsthand accounts of freed slaves or written from abolitionist perspectives, or slave owners that were casually talking about whipping, scarring, or raping their slaves as if it was no big deal. It brought me right into those moments and made it personal. It didn't make me hate my country. It made me understand what man is capable of in its worst. It made me want to be a better person than people in previous generations. My kids are better than my generation was. The racist shit that I heard when I was a kid, the homophobic shit that I heard was just normal in Massachusetts. It doesn't exist in the universe of my kids. Why? Because Gen X did a lot of soul searching over their lives and got better. And our kids didn't see us do the same shit that the boomers did. And the boomers, they were better than the greatest generation when it came to this stuff. War played a role in this change. Work played a role in this change. But you know who else did? Teachers. I will never know what it was like to be a slave from personal experience, but reading those books put me there. It built empathy. It made me think. Imagine being thought of as nothing just because I was born with more melanin. And by the way, it was only about 50 years ago that Italians weren't even considered white. We had our own category on the census because of all this bonus melanin that we have. Never mind that the US likes to claim it's built on the principles of the Greeks and the Romans, but you know what? I'll save that discussion for another day. Teachers need to be able to teach their classes. Drop the federal guidelines and the standardized tests. Drop the stupid state mandates that are basically afraid of other thought. Let teachers at the local levels teach. Let the principals hire and fire. Trust the process. But Nick, this one teacher did this horrible thing one time. Yeah, Denise, she did. And she sucks. But so do you at your job as an accountant. You're always going to have bad employees, but on the whole, our education was better when we had the Peachies, the Crouches, and the McManuses. Those gentlemen have now either retired or left us. But if they were still teaching, none of them would be allowed to teach their classes anymore because they don't comply with these bullshit federal or state mandates. These were the 3 best non-STEM classes I have ever attended in my entire life, and I went to West Point and Duke. And when I say nothing else came close, I need you to understand how much I truly mean that. 3 high school classes changed my life. You cannot be afraid of information. Raise your children right. Teach them how to think. They'll draw the right conclusions.
We all know the lengths we would go for our pets. If my dog was sick, I would easily go into massive debt to save his life, and if someone hurt him, there would be a plethora of people with pencils in their eye sockets. But a man from Australia went full tilt to get his cat back from an animal shelter. Tony Whitman, whose cat was being held at the Lost Dogs home in Melbourne, barged into the shelter wearing full combat gear and armed with faked assault rifles. When he got into the shelter, he tied up the young female employee who was working at the desk. Not a good start, Tony. After telling the employee to count to 100, apparently Tony forgot his entire mission and just walked out the door without his cat. When police arrived to arrest Tony, he apologized for his actions and said he had PTSD from serving in the Australian military, and he took actions without thinking about the consequences. Biggest up here, in my opinion, is you forgot your cat. You had one job. I can't judge Tony too much, as this is the exact same thing I would do if my dog was at that shelter and I couldn't get him out. But I would have definitely gotten him out though. On Monday, he pleaded guilty to false imprisonment, aggravated burglary, criminal damage, and a couple of other big boy ticket charges. Whether you think Tony is right or wrong, this is clearly the farthest a dude has gone to get some pussy.
The murder investigation of Gabby Petito is still ongoing, but this week coroners determined that she did die from strangulation. Her boyfriend, Brian Laundrie, aka the dude who definitely killed her, is still on the run or missing or whatever. People have been posting random pictures that look like him and flying drones over his parents' house to see if he's there, but so far there are literally 0 clues as to where he might be. Conspiracy theorists / people just bored on the internet think that Brian's parents may be hiding him under a garden in their backyard, which of course would be absolutely nuts. In one video taken from a drone, it sort of looks like a hand reaches out from the garden and Brian's mom taps it and it goes back down. Who the f knows what the video really shows? Sometimes people see what they want to see, and right now people really want to find this motherfucker. A video from a police body camera captured an interaction between police and the couple when they were stopped for a possible domestic violence case. From this, a private detective hired by the family guessed that the cause of death would be strangulation based on the marks he saw on Gabby's body during the video. Thanks for the spoiler, man. Brian has been missing since a couple of weeks after Gabby's disappearance, and authorities don't really have a plan for catching him, but say that there have been over a dozen reports that he might be in North Carolina. If so, Brian, you can hang out in our offices. We promise we will keep you at least 6 feet away from authorities at all times.
Britton Harbor, Michigan, a city less than 3 hours away from Flint, Michigan, is now dealing with their own water crisis. Currently, people in the town have orders not to drink, cook, or even brush their teeth with the water. The predominantly black neighborhood faces the same issues as Flint, having elevated levels of lead in their drinking water. People are turning to buying bottled water so they can drink and even brush their teeth. In 2018, lead was detected in the drinking water of some homes due to lead pipes, but the city's water system has failed tests over the last 3 years. Last month, residents pleaded for help from the state and the EPA, which distributed 10,000 bottles of water out to the public. That'll fix everything. At the same time, residents are extremely frustrated with the lack of response and action from the federal government, which cannot actually afford to fix the city's pipes, which are at the root of the issue. So far, less than 5% of the 6,000 lines in the city have been replaced, so about none. The other issue for residents is there is no way for them to really leave without losing money. People can't sell their homes because no one is going to buy a house where the water is contaminated with lead, with some residents thinking their best option is to board up and head out. President Biden and his administration have a bipartisan infrastructure bill that could help cities like this in need. But it's the government, so even if they did do the right thing, it would probably be long after it's too late to fix.
You can pretty much buy anything online. Need toilet paper delivered? Boom, Amazon. Maybe an entire family delivered to your front door? Boom, Grubhub. You can even get drugs delivered to your door in some states. But something you maybe thought you needed or should be sold online is actually readily available every day. That, of course, is human bones. Yes, there are weirdos who buy and sell bones online, and I know one of those weirdos. In fact, he's producing this show. People buy human bones for all sorts of reasons. Maybe you need them for some sort of witchcraft. Or maybe you're trying to Frankenstein some animal back to life. For me, I like to put skulls in my windows to keep all the Jehovah's Witnesses out. A 21-year-old TikToker, which is, I guess, an actual profession now, is coming under fire for selling human bones online. Now, this is completely legal. There are just a bunch of online Karens who find it icky and want to cancel him. Apparently, people get weird when you sell the bones of people who may or may not have given you permission to do so. John Pichaya Ferry has been getting bones from medical sources where the bones were used for medical education and now are resold to a multitude of different clientele. The good thing for John is that he's doing all of this legally, at least that we know of. So no matter how many internet trolls try to cancel him, he should be okay. Yes, it's f***ing weird, but it's legal. The reason why John is doing this is to help educate people about osteology and help people in general. A lot of his bones go to people learning about medicine or to cadaver-sniffing dogs to help them find bones. John, I know you're making some people mad, but that amuses me. So keep doing what you're doing, brother. I honestly find it all very humorous.
A 47-year-old California woman is facing a mess of charges after prosecutors say she had booze-fueled parties for underage minors at her house. Shannon O'Connor, also known as Shannon Bruga, not sure how that alias helps you escape, but you do you. Shannon is accused of having drunken and destructive house parties where she encouraged teens to drink, have sex, and not tell their parents. Documents state that Shannon bought Aristocrat vodka and Fireball whiskey in order to get these kids drunk. She didn't even spring for Top Shelf. Come on, Shannon. There might be some parents who are a little loose with the rules and let their kids have a sip of alcohol before they're 21, but Shannon is pure evil. Prosecutors and victims are alleging that Shannon got underage girls drunk to the point of passing out and encouraged other male minors to have sex with them. So, rape. There is even one instance where it is said that Shannon watched and laughed as a young girl was sexually battered. She would also drive teens around and then let them drunkenly drive her SUV around the parking lots while other kids hung around the back of the car. Oh, and one of those kids hanging on the back of her car was her son. Mom of the Year candidate right here, am I right? Shannon, who is married to a big shot Silicon Valley executive, is expected to face a lengthy prison term as she has over 39 charges against her, including supplying alcohol to minors and felony child abuse. Even though her sentence is long, there is a good chance Shannon will face some good old prison justice. Surprise, even people in prison hate if you f*** with kids. Shannon, you're a true human piece of shit.
The New Zealand city of Christchurch has decided to get rid of their wizard. You idiots! What are you going to do now when your city's attacked by evil magic? Ian Brackenbury Channel has been a necromancer in the town since 1998 and has recently been given his last paycheck by the city. Gandalf, the Wizard of New Zealand, was getting paid $11,000 to be the crazy old hobo wizard for this town. Apparently he was part of the city's tourist attraction budget, but with everyone pinching pennies through COVID, Ian was let go. I'm not sure what job the wizard had, but it seemed like he just roamed the streets and talked to random people about his weird beliefs and maybe brought some people back to life every now and then. One of these beliefs is the idea that women cause wars by shopping. That doesn't make total sense, but hey, I'm not a wizard, so what do I know? Even though the city kept the wizard around, he wasn't always a fan favorite. In 2008, his giant mythical house, was burned down and the police concluded that it was from arson. The wizard wasn't super happy to be let go. I guess that $11,000 a year was getting him a long way. After being fired, he said, "F*** them. They're just a bunch of latte-drinking bureaucrats," and he casted a spell over the city, turning everyone into frogs. The wizard said his current plan is to help a group of midgets rid the world of evil. He just needs to find some giant eagles to fly on first.
On Tuesday, President Clinton was admitted to the hospital from a non-COVID related infection. I think it's also important to point out this was also not a sexually transmitted infection either. After Clinton was feeling overly fatigued, he was taken to the hospital where he was diagnosed with a urological infection that became a broader infection, but the prognosis is good. The worry is that Clinton is old as fuck and he has had multiple health scares over the years, with many dealing with his heart. Clinton had a quadruple bypass surgery in 2004 and 6 years later had 2 coronary stents placed in his heart. So he's pretty much being held together by duct tape and Elmer's glue at this point. Hospital staff said he is in good spirits and said he was able to talk with family and friends and even asked a nurse for a hand job. Luckily, things are looking up for the former president, with his health going in the right direction. Hospital staff said the biggest threat to his health was Hillary coming in and smothering him to death with a pillow.
And finally, in Florida Man news, it looks like one of the characters from Game of Thrones has made his way south of the wall all the way down to the great state of Florida. Scott Taylor was arrested this week after setting fire to some grassland on the side of the highway. When the police showed up, Scott was standing in the middle of the highway holding a 5-foot sword and a bottle of rum, waiting for them. The police then pulled out their long swords and a battle of epic proportions ensued. After chopping off limb after limb, Scott was able to escape back to his castle. Okay, not really. The ending is much more Floridian. After arriving on scene, police walked up to Scott and asked why he started the fires. The hillbilly Captain Sparrow said he couldn't remember why he started the fire and chugged the bottle of rum while the cops talked to him. What a legend. You can also tell by the story that the police in Florida have seen it all at this point. I'm pretty sure he could have set himself on fire in front of them, and they would have just kept trying to ask him questions. The guy is standing there with a literal sword and a bottle of rum, and they're like, bro, what happened? After being taken to a holding cell, Scott did what any normal Florida man would have done. He intentionally broke the fire sprinkler and flooded his entire cell. He clearly was trying to go full pirate and get back on the high seas, just like Captain Jack Sparrow would have. Scott's been transferred to a higher security prison while he awaits his court trial, where it is believed he will request a trial by combat. Good luck, Scott! And with that, I'm Nick Palmisano.
And I'm getting hammered.
And this is the Bad News Network. Our news is at least as bad as the news you're getting already, and I'm sorry that Matt missed tonight. He's getting a pedicure. As always, you can get 25% off at rangerup.com when you use the code BNN. Have a great weekend.